friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today is part, I don't know what, of my kitchen tips and tricks. I've lost count, I'm sorry. But I have a whole playlist. This is maybe part 7, I'm guessing, somewhere around in there. And today it's going to be about the many uses for white sauce. So the first thing you have to do is know just the basics on how to make a white sauce. Now this is typically going to be your dairy-based sauce. However, if you're vegan or you can't have dairy, you can try doing this with your nut milk. I have yet to actually try it. I keep meaning to do it, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. You're going to take on a little bit different flavor like you would with anything, but I think it would work just great for making dairy-free sauces for the various things I'm going to mention. So let's start off by talking about a couple different ways that you can make the sauce. Now, a lot of people make their gravies and sauces starting off with a roux. And what that means is you're going to start off with butter, or maybe if you're doing the dairy-free, coconut oil. You're going to throw your flour or whatever your thickener is into that after it gets nice and hot, and you're going to stir it around until it browns a little bit. And then you're going to add in your milk, whatever kind that you choose to use. And that's one way. And I do that sometimes. I don't do it very often for a couple of reasons. Now, if you want a more brown gravy, you're going to keep doing that with your flour or whatever your thickener is until it takes on a nice brown color before you add in whatever liquid you're going to put in there. Now, most of the time I go with a super simple method, and that is mixing my flour into my milk while it is cold and adding in all my herbs and spices that I'm going to be using in whatever it is that I'm going to make it for, and mixing it well and then heating it and letting it thicken. That's a super simple, quick and easy way to do it. So it's going to depend on what you're looking for. If having that flavor of the browned flour in your sauce or gravy is going to matter. So I would say play with it a little bit. I know there's some people out there that have videos on how to make roux. I can't remember if I have one. I know I don't have one just on that, but I might have in one of my videos, maybe the macaroni and cheese one. I might show how I start off with that because I don't always do things the same every time. So once you get your basic white sauce down, there's so many things you can do. Now, a lot of the things I'm going to be mentioning, and maybe even all of these things I'm going to be mentioning, I should have videos on. So any of the ones that I do have videos on how to make, I will go ahead and link to those below. Now, the basic white sauce is what we're talking about. From there, you can take it and then change certain aspects of it, whether it be your spices and your herbs, or even certain other additions like adding some Parmesan cheese if you're making fettuccine, and that's going to make it suit whatever it is you're making it for. So let me list off a few of the things that we're talking about. So I do have a video, by the way, just on making a cream of mushroom sauce is what I call it, because I never make it as a soup. And that for sure I will link down below. That's going to be the basic one I use for making many of the things I'm going to list here, including making a fish noodle casserole. Most people think of it as tuna noodle casserole, but I very rarely make it with tuna because usually we have salmon or steelhead in the freezer that I cook up one night. Like I'll cook up a whole fillet and then we'll eat on that, and then maybe the next night I'll take some of the leftovers and make a steelhead noodle casserole. And I'm not sure if I have a video just on that, but if I do, I'll put that down below. But anyway, that cream of mushroom sauce is what I'm going to use to make that casserole. So I don't have to be dependent on buying a cream of mushroom soup from the store. I just make my own from my own food stores. Milk, flour, herbs, spices, and some freeze-dried mushrooms, or even fresh mushrooms if I have them on hand, or even dehydrated mushrooms, like it could be chanterelles that we wild pick, or even the brown mushrooms that we get from Costco. Another thing this white sauce is used for, we always just called it, when it's usually the very next meal I'll make after Thanksgiving, and we always just called it turkey gravy over rice, but a lot of people call it turkey a la king or chicken a la king. I've never actually looked up that recipe. This is something we just made up, so maybe it is the same thing. I don't know if there's some varying different herbs that are used in that, but I do have a video on making that showing how I do it. It's very simple. I just make the white sauce, add in whatever herbs and spices sound good to me at the time, throw in some leftover turkey, onions and garlic, and then we serve it over rice. It can also be served over noodles if you so choose. In fact, a lot of the things I'm going to mention can be good served over noodles. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is, and I've already mentioned it, is making your own homemade macaroni and cheese. Now, macaroni and cheese is something I like to mix up and make it a little bit different every time. But one of my favorite ways to do it is to make it with a little bit of hamburger. And so it's kind of similar to making maybe your tuna noodle casserole, but obviously you're going to have a lot more cheese in it. And so I do have a recipe on that. And one of the things I really like to add to that is the olives. The black olives just really add to it. If you like black olives, of course, we're olive crazy around here. So I'll use olives and mushrooms in quite a bit of things. Now, obviously, the main difference with the macaroni and cheese, you start off with your white sauce, but you're going to add in a whole bunch of cheese to that. And again, tailor your spices. That is the one food that I do like to add a little bit of curry and a little bit of turmeric, because especially if you're using an organic cheese that hasn't been dyed with annatto or whatever coloring. Obviously, natural cheese is not orange. If a cheese is orange, it means it's had color added to it. But it's usually a natural form of coloring. So if I'm using an organic white cheddar, then what I do is I'll add in that turmeric and I'll add in that curry, and it adds a really nice flavor, as well as adding more color to the macaroni and cheese to make it look more like what we think of when we make macaroni and cheese. But again, I do have a recipe on that. It is old, so it'll probably be kind of a dark video. Didn't have all the lights. Like, this is a brand new one that I got, and I'm loving this thing. The more I use it, the more I love it. But anyway, finally I invested in some real stage lighting. And then the next thing I have on the list is biscuits and gravy. So you've got your white sauce or your white gravy. How thick you make it is also going to depend on how much flour and other dried ingredients you add to your sauces. So yes, your basic white sauce can be used to make biscuits and gravy. And then another favorite around here is meatballs and gravy. Now, this isn't going to be like your Italian, spaghetti sauce and meatballs, not that kind of thing. This is going to be more similar to like the chicken a la king, except for made with meatballs. So I'll make my own homemade meatballs using either an elk burger, a venison burger, or a beef burger. And then I make those, I'll cook them, brown them, and then I make my white sauce or my white gravy, and then I get it all made up separately, and then I put it into the pan with the meatballs, and then let it thicken up right in there with the meatballs so they're all cooking all together like that. But you do want to make sure you brown your meatballs first, and I do think I have a video on that. And then another thing would be, as I mentioned earlier, making your fettuccine, whether it be chicken fettuccine, seafood fettuccine, whatever kind of fettuccine, or even a meatless fettuccine, starting off with your basic white sauce. And this is one I do recommend using a roux, starting off with the roux, but don't brown it too much. You just want to thicken up the butter and the flour together, and then slowly add in your milk. I think I have a video on this, but again, this is something I do a little bit differently every time. The fettuccine is a really good place to start off with a roux first, and then add in your herbs and your spices and your milk. And then of course you're going to be adding Parmesan cheese to that to get that nice Italian cheesy type flavor. And I don't measure stuff out. I just throw it together and taste it until it tastes right to me. So here's just a few examples of how you can first learn how to make that basic white sauce. And once you've got that simple idea down, all the many things you can do with that and branch out from there. I'm sure you're probably already thinking of some various different casseroles and things that I haven't mentioned where a white sauce, look at it this way. If you're one that's always bought like a cream of mushroom or cream of celery or any other kind of cream of soup, to use as a base in casseroles. Well, now you can take your basic white sauce or mushroom sauce or whatever it is, starting off with this, and then just make that. It's quick, easy, and cheap, and then use that in whatever casserole. Once you get it down, you'll never want to buy the store-bought cans of cream of whatever soup anymore, because you can do it yourself out of things you already have in food storage, and it's super easy. Okay, so don't forget to check out those videos so you can learn how to make the sauce, as well as how to make the different meals I mentioned. And if you have any great ideas of how to use a basic white sauce and mix it up and use it in various other different recipes that I didn't already mention here, please put those down below so we can all learn and glean from you as well. Okay, well, I hope you're enjoying my series on kitchen tips and tricks. Don't forget to check out the rest of the playlist, which I will also link down below. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.